Welcome back to week 2 of diabetes education. Hopefully last week you attended your class in the Zoom format with the other participants in your class and your educator. If you're listening to this now, I guess you couldn't attend your class and missed it, so you're listening and watching the slides for this class at this time. This week in session 2, we're going to go over eating for better health, being physically active, and start talking about making changes. I hope that you completed your medication wallet card that was shown to you last week and have it filled out. I hope you may have found some activities that you could do as a family. And also want to make sure that you have all your materials ready for today's lesson. You need your plate from home, Eating for Better Health pamphlet, the 9-inch paper plate, food models, grocery store layout handout. Also, you may want to grab out of your things the Workout to Go handout. We will be also using it a little bit today. So normally we would be talking and having feedback from each participant and staff, but of course since this is a pre-recording, you will be thinking about things that you would share with your family members or with other people in the group. So let's start talking about page 19 in your Type 2 Diabetes Basics book. You should have filled out on how do you feel about checking your blood glucose now and what concerns you have about checking your glucose. If you feel you have concerns, you may want to talk to your educator the next time you meet. Let's start off talking about how to eat for better health. This is where we want to focus. We want us all to be healthy and to eat for better health. Many of you have probably heard the term diabetes diet from others or even healthcare providers. You may be relieved to learn that there's no such thing as a diabetic diet or diabetes diet. But instead, we want to focus on eating for better health. So this can include your entire family when it comes to eating for better health. Choosing to eat foods that are rich in vitamins, minerals, fiber, and other nutrients that promote health is very important. Also, it's important to eat when you're hungry and stop when you're satisfied by recognizing hunger clues. You also need to be aware of your portion sizes and choose the appropriate amount when you're eating. Eating for better health is important to keep your blood sugar levels in target, reach and maintain a healthy weight, prevent and or delay complications, and just to feel better and have more energy. On page 22 in your book, there's a table for your reference here that talk about better for you foods. Let's start off with the vegetable category. This shows fresh vegetables, which are the first choice when choosing better for you foods. Frozen vegetables are also good for you, and then canned would be your next choice. Proteins that are lean, such as turkey and chicken without the skin, eggs, lean cuts of beef and pork, fish, high-fiber plant-based proteins such as beans, peas, and lentils. Under grains, we're looking at whole grains, which might include brown rice, sweet potatoes, quinoa, rolled oats, 100% whole grain pasta, breads, and cereal. When you're looking at your pasta, breads, and cereals, you want whole grain as the first ingredient on the list. When we look at fruit, once again, fresh fruit is the first choice, frozen fruit, and then canned fruit can be okay as well, but you want to buy no sugar added or packed in 100% fruit juice. With dairy includes milk, cheese, yogurt, or unsweetened like soy milk, almond milk, rice milk, those type of beverages. And then for our fats, we wanted to use fats that are like the olive oil, canola oil, unsalted nuts and seeds, avocado, and salad dressings made with unsaturated vegetable oil. When we talked about beans under the protein, you also should remember that they're going to have a little bit of carbohydrate. So sticking to about a half a cup of beans is the proper portion size so that you don't get too many carbohydrates. Portion size is going to be discussed later in more detail. Canned vegetables should be low in salt, and we should rinse those before use. So if you're using canned vegetables, it's important to get lower salt and rinse them. Also, we mentioned yogurt. Under dairy, we want the yogurt to be unsweetened, like a Greek yogurt. When you're making changes in what you're eating, it's best to make one change at a time, maybe starting with one change and then adding another one when you're ready. You might think about this as a goal when we do our goal setting next week. Let's look at the chart on page 23 that shows replacement foods for some of the foods that are commonly consumed. I'm going to take a moment and take a break and let you just look at those and decide if any of those interest you. So if you currently eat things on the right-hand side of the column and you see those, see what you might replace them with on the left-hand side of the column. How do you shop for better food choices? Better food choices are typically found on the edges of the store because they're unprocessed or minimally processed foods. Unprocessed foods just means that they are in their natural form and more healthy. So on your handout, you will notice on the outside edge, you have things like your fresh produce, your meat, poultry, and fish, your milk, eggs, and dairy, your bread, your deli meats, and then the other aisles I would include to shop more often is like the frozen food area. The majority of your shopping should be done in these areas. If you're shopping in the middle of the store, those foods are definitely more processed and therefore may be higher in carbohydrates than the foods on the outside edge, or are just more processed and have fewer amounts of fiber. Also, foods that come from the middle of the store are going to have probably more sugar, salts, and fats. So we really want to stick to the outside portion of the grocery store. Sometimes ordering online may be helpful because when we order online, we avoid temptations of unhealthy foods at the store and we pick up healthier options. I know if I go to the store, sometimes you see something that you wouldn't have picked up normally and you pick it up and it may have not been the most healthy item to pick. The foods you eat have carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Of these, carbohydrates is what affects your blood sugar the most, but carbohydrates itself is not bad for you. So here's some general rules. Choose better for you carbohydrates. The best carbohydrates are going to be those under the green arrow, which include things with whole grains, fruits, legumes, which are your beans and peas and things like that, and dairy. The ones we need to be cautious about and not eat as much of are the white bread, desserts, chips, bakery, pastries, and muffins. And then things we definitely want to avoid that are not healthy are sugar-sweetened soda, juice, energy sports drinks, and sugar-sweetened coffee-type drinks. So we want to avoid those as much as possible. We also want to eat our carbohydrates in recommended portion sizes, and we're going to talk about that in another lesson. We're going to start by looking at the Eating for Better Health pamphlet. Remember, we said there's no such thing as a diabetes diet, and we just want to eat better and more healthy, which is important for our entire family. To make a food plan, you're going to plan what foods that you will eat. By selecting better for you foods, your blood sugar control will be much better and your diabetes will be in better control. How much you will eat is something else we will discuss some, and when you will eat. Eating for better health is choosing to take care of yourself. For a person with diabetes, this can include improving blood sugar management, possibly losing weight, improving your lipids and blood pressure. And lipids are things like your cholesterol, triglycerides, HDL, LDL. The old saying, you are what you eat. When you choose healthy foods, you become more healthy. So I want you to have your Eating for Better Health pamphlet out. And first thing we're going to look at is the cover. What do you think the cover represents? Think about that for a minute. Basically, it is representing eating 3 meals per day. Let's take a look at each meal. Each of these meals shows non-processed foods. The breakfast meal is lacking some protein, unless the yogurt it shows is a Greek unflavored yogurt. Greek unflavored yogurt has protein, whereas sugar-sweetened yogurts do not have as much protein. But in the breakfast meal, you could always substitute an egg, maybe for your oatmeal or for the yogurt. Let's look inside the pamphlet. Why is eating for better health important? You can have more energy or maintain your weight, improve your blood sugars, reduce risk of heart disease. Let's look at each food category. Let's start off with the fruits. If you open the front fold in the pamphlet, you will see in a red box, it's going to say fruit. Fruits have natural sugar, so they can increase your blood glucose. But fruits are also healthy and a better for you food. They can be part of a meal, but are great to use as a snack in place of a sugary dessert. We really want to try to eat 2 to 3 servings of fruit a day. A serving is a single piece of fruit that fits in the palm of your hand and a half a cup of frozen or canned. If you're doing canned, be sure to get those in 100% juice or rinse the fruit before eating. And do not drink the juice, because that can make your blood sugar go up. Also, fruit like an apple should be about the size of your fist. It is best to choose whole fruit, fresh or frozen, a cup of melon or berries, 2 tablespoons of dried fruit, or a half a cup of fruit juice. But of course, fruit juice is going to bring your blood sugar up very quickly. So typically, fruit juice isn't the best choice for someone with diabetes. Let's look now at the vegetables. We want to eat a wide variety of colorful, low-starchy vegetables. You can add vegetables by putting them in soups, stews, and sandwiches. You should eat 3 or more servings per day. These type of vegetables include broccoli, cauliflower, greens, green beans, peppers, cucumbers, radishes. If you choose canned vegetables, you should drain and rinse them. And we should have about 3 or more servings per day. A serving is usually a cup of raw, a half a cup of cooked vegetables, or maybe even a half a cup of vegetable juice. Now, if you flip over your page one more, and in the center of that page, there's a section on fats and oils. Unsaturated oils, such as olive or canola oil, are the best. You can add healthy fats with nuts and avocados as well. Although it says 6 servings, remember, servings do include mayonnaise, salad dressing, and cooking oil. Each tablespoon of salad dressing is a serving, while 1 teaspoon of olive oil is considered a serving. Nuts as snacks should be about 2 tablespoons of nuts. You should pick oil-based salad dressing over creamy ones, and choose butters that have unsaturated oil, liquid oil as their base, or no trans fats. Dairy is another good carbohydrate that can also increase your blood glucose level. If you open the page, and on your handout should be totally open now, and you should see dairy and dairy substitutes at the top of the page in a blue box. This can include dairy substitutes like almond milk, which has limited effect on blood glucose compared to cow's milk. You can have 2 to 3 servings of dairy per day. If you eat yogurt, pick one that has no sugars on the nutrition label and add your own fruit or sugar-free jelly or artificial sweetener. You should have 2 to 3 servings a day. A serving is a cup of milk or some type of dairy substitute, such as your almond milk, soy milk, or about a half a cup of yogurt, or 1 small slice of cheese, which weighs about 1 ounce. Whole grains. Whole grains can also increase your blood sugar levels, so watching your portion sizes is important. We want to eat whole grains. You want to look for 100% whole grain on the ingredient list. That may be things such as brown rice, whole wheat bread, whole wheat pasta, corn tortillas, quinoa, bulgur, oatmeal, or whole grain cereals. This also would include starchy vegetables such as potatoes, sweet potatoes, corn, or peas. You should have 1 to 2 servings a meal, and a serving is usually a half a cup of cooked grains or a slice of bread, 1 pita or a 6-inch tortilla, a small potato, or half a cup of corn or peas. Usually a serving is going to fit in the palm of your hand. And on the last thing on this page are the proteins, which are in a red box. You want to choose fish and poultry without skin most often. And remember that proteins have little effect on the blood sugar as long as they're not breaded. Avoid eating the skin on poultry as it has lots of fat. Eat fish 1 or 2 times per week. Protein is found in beans and eggs as well. Remember, the beans, although listed here as a protein, can make your blood sugar increase. Keep bean servings to half a cup. For other sources of protein, a serving size is generally like a deck of cards. You should aim for 5 to 6 ounces per day. A serving of lean protein is typically between 3 and 4 ounces, about the size of the palm of your hand or 1/4 of your plate. Now, how do we put all this together? I would recommend putting a star by the food groups we just talked about that can raise your blood sugar. These are fruits, dairy, and whole grains. These are the foods that we need to watch how much we put on our plate. In another lesson, we'll talk more about portion sizes of these foods. For now, we're going to focus on how our plate looks. Let's look at our plates. Get your plate out and use the measuring rule on the side of the pamphlet to see how big your plate is. So we want your plate from home. If you notice on the last page when the handout is wide open, there's a ruler on the end of the page. That ruler is 9 inches long. I want you to take the ruler and set it across your plate to see how big is your plate. It's recommended to use a 9-inch plate. If yours is bigger than 9 inches, then make a note as to where the 9 inches is located. Your food should stay within that. Using smaller plates helps trick the brain that you're actually getting to eat more because your plate is going to look more full. So how do we fix our plate? When creating your plate, we're going to focus on the size of the plate and eating minimally processed healthy foods. Let's look at the plate at the center of your pamphlet. So if your pamphlet is open all the way, this is going to be, the sample of your plate is going to be at the top on the second sheet of the pamphlet. You should see a round circle. Half of your plate should be filled with colorful vegetables. 1/4 of your plate should be filled with whole grains and starchy vegetables. So that might be a potato, might be some type of pasta, it might be a piece of bread. The other 1/4 of your plate should be filled with protein, such as a lean meat or a plant-based protein. You can also have a serving of fruit with your meal and possibly a serving of dairy with your meal as well. The serving of fruit on your pamphlet is represented by the red square, and that would be like your dessert. And your milk or your serving of dairy, which might be a piece of cheese a glass of milk, maybe a sugar-free yogurt, is represented by the blue circle. This plate plan is good for everyone, not only the person with diabetes, but even people without diabetes. This is a way that's healthy for filling your plate. Now you have some food cutouts with you. I'm going to let you know what those cutouts are, because some of them are a little difficult to recognize. Your protein ones, which are all together, should be together. You have an egg, you have a piece of fish, you have a hamburger patty, and it looks like a pork chop. Your whole grain starches are going to include your potato, a piece of corn on the cob, a dinner roll, a sweet potato, a regular baked potato, some rice, and some grits. Your packet of fruit includes strawberries, canned pears, some fruit cocktail, and an apple. Your vegetables are going to include spinach, green peppers, carrots, broccoli, cauliflower, green beans, I believe that's some cabbage, cucumbers or zucchini, and then a salad. So you have lots of vegetables to choose from. So I'd like for you to practice and set up a plate of something you might typically eat. You all can work together, you and your support person, or you can both do a plate yourself. We want to keep our meal to be up to 3 foods that can increase the blood sugar. Half of your plate should be filled with vegetables, a fourth with protein, a fourth with your starch, and then you could have a dairy and a fruit. So we want to have 3 foods that increase the glucose. So if you choose something from the starch group, dairy, and fruit, you will have 3 things that can increase your blood sugar. But you might work something different and can be changed up a little bit. If you included a dinner roll as part of your starch, plus you have a potato, you could leave the fruit off and still have dairy to include 3 items that increase your blood sugar. Or let's say you didn't want dairy with this meal necessarily. Then you could have fruit, potato, and a roll. But we want to keep it where there are 3 foods that can increase the blood sugar level, 3 or less. Your food models are very limited, so there are other items that you could put on your plate. Let's talk about them and where they should go. So let's say you had, we don't have a food model for an orange. If you have orange, that might go in the fruit section. We don't have a model for maybe a whole grain cereal, and this was a breakfast meal. So your cereal might be a starch and fruit together, and then you have your dairy for your milk to go on your cereal. You might have corn on your plate, plus you may have some pasta on your plate. So you would want to leave off dairy and fruit. Either dairy or fruit. I think I said and. If you have questions regarding this activity and want to work again with it with the educator during your next Zoom class, if you'll ask your educator to stay after class to help you set up some plates, they would be more than willing to do that. When you think about snacking between meals, you should say, am I really hungry, or are you just bored, lonely, or stressed? If you do snack, pick healthier snacks for you. Some healthier snacks might be fresh fruit, string cheese, some vegetables that have been cut up, nuts, unbuttered popcorn. Having healthy snack options in home is good for everyone. This is good for everyone, not just the people with diabetes. If you turn to page 25 in your book, it talks about what is a food plan. After class, you should think of different meals for yourself and write them down. Talk about them with your family member. What changes are you both interested in making? You may not be a person who normally eats vegetables, so y'all may want to add vegetables to your meal plan. And review page 22 in your book which has the different better for you foods, and your Eating for Better Health pamphlet. Put a star by 1 to 2 areas where you want to make a change. Consider including in your goal setting for next week if you are ready. Let's talk about when to eat now. We definitely recommend eating 3 meals per day. Once again, you can look at your Eating for Better Health pamphlet. And in that pamphlet, there are 2 clocks on the side. So we had the pamphlet all the way open. If you turn the pamphlet over, the first page on the left says, "When do I eat?" You should start your day with a morning meal. Aim for 3 meals spread out through the day, and you could have a small snack between meals. Avoid skipping meals because that sometimes leads to overeating at the next meal. And recognize when you are satisfied. Do not eat until you're stuffed. You might want to mark in this pamphlet the times you normally eat your 3 meals per day, or when you eat per day. So you have 3 clocks on the lower part of that page under When Do I Eat. And mark the times you eat. And try to stick with the daily schedule. If you don't eat 3 meals a day, look at this and try to plan what times a day you plan to eat. We're going to review this further in other weeks. Let's pick out some healthier options. On page 29 in your book, so we're moving back over to the Type 2 Diabetes Basics book, and we're turning to page 29 in that book. It lists a morning meal, a midday meal, and an evening meal, and also lists a snack. In normal class, you would mark which ones you think are better on your computer screen. But for now, just put a check mark by the meals that you think are better and are healthier options. We're going to be reviewing more later on Eating for Better Health all throughout this class. So over the next 8 more weeks, we will talk about Eating for Better Health as well. Let's look at the morning meal. I'll give you a second to mark which meal you feel is the better morning meal. And there can be more than one correct answer. So when we look at this meal, in meal number 1 is a bakery muffin, fruit juice, and sugar-sweetened coffee drink. Do you think that is going to be a good meal? We should limit bakery foods. We should not drink fruit juice or have sugar-sweetened coffee drink. So I'm going to say no to meal number 1. Meal number 2 has a cup of cooked oats, 2 tablespoons of walnuts, and a small banana. That is a pretty good meal for you because oats have whole grain and your walnuts are a good source of fat. Your banana will have carbohydrates in it, but fruit is important to have. Let's look at morning meal 3. An egg, 2 slices of whole grain toast, 1 to 2 teaspoons of tub margarine, and a half of a mango. So your carbohydrates in this meal are going to be your 2 slices of toast, which are 2 carb servings, and your half a mango, which is another carb serving. So you have 3 carb servings there, using your tub margarine, which is your fat, and then your egg is your protein. So the best meals on the morning meal selection are going to be meal number 2 or meal number 3. Midday meal, sometimes we refer to this as lunch. Midday meal number 1 is going to be a wheat tortilla, 2 to 3 ounces of turkey, a half a cup of mashed avocados, 4 to 6 ounces of yogurt, and a medium orange and some vegetables. This meal is a pretty good choice because you have whole wheat tortilla, you have a low-fat meat in your turkey, you have a good source of fat in the avocado, and you have your yogurt. As long as it's a Greek yogurt or something like that, is going to be a milk source, and then your orange is going to be your fruit. So you have carbohydrates in your tortilla, your yogurt, and your orange. So you stuck to 3 carbohydrate sources, and then you have your avocados for your fat and your vegetables. Midday meal number 2, salad greens, which are going to include some raw vegetables. With that, a half a cup of cottage cheese, 2 tablespoons of a vinaigrette dressing, 2 tablespoons of pumpkin seeds, a cup of strawberries, and a half a cup of quinoa. This is also a pretty healthy meal. Your protein comes from your cottage cheese. Your fats are going to be in your pumpkin seeds and your vinaigrette dressing. Your fruit and your strawberries, and your starch is your quinoa. Midday meal number 3, there's going to be 2 slices of sausage pizza, breadsticks, and regular soda. Midday meal number 3 is not a good choice for your meal. Remember, regular soda was under the red arrow earlier, and then your pizza and your breadsticks are going to have a lot of carbohydrates as well. So there's going to be a lot of carbohydrates in midday meal number 3. So 1 and 2 would be your best options. Evening meal number 1, you have whole wheat pasta, spaghetti sauce, 3 ounces of lean ground beef, a tossed salad. On your salad, a tablespoon of Italian dressing, a cup of milk, and half a cup of grapes. So this meal is going to have about 4 carbohydrate servings, because your pasta is a whole cup, when normally half a cup of pasta is a serving. Also has a cup of milk, which is a serving, and a half a cup of grapes, which is a serving. So you have 4 carb servings in this meal. Not terrible. It is a good choice to have lean ground beef, and that tossed salad is very important to get your vegetables in. Let's look at evening meal number 3. We have whole wheat ciabatta or flatbread, 1 cup of lentils, a cup of steamed vegetables, spinach salad, some apple slices, and a couple tablespoons of plain yogurt. This meal is going to be pretty good for the evening meal as well, because your flatbread is probably 1 carb serving, maybe 2, it depends. You've got some carbs in your lentils, and you have carbs in your apple slices. You've got your vegetables going on here with your steamed vegetables and your spinach salad. So you're sticking between 3 and 4 carb servings in this meal as well. But evening meal number 2 has 2 cups of fried rice, 2 cups of orange chicken, an egg roll, a fortune cookie, and sweetened iced tea. This is filled full of carbohydrates. A half a cup of rice is a serving of rice, so you have 4 carb servings just in the rice. Your orange chicken is going to have a sweet glaze on it and is probably breaded. Your egg roll is going to have carbohydrates in it, and of course your tea and your fortune cookie as well. So meals 1 and 3 on the evening meal are your better choice. How about snacks? Which snack could be better for you? About a 1/4 cup of nuts, a cup of fresh fruit, or a cup of raw carrots with 2 tablespoons of hummus. Snack 1 and snack 3 are going to have lower carbs, but even a cup of fresh fruit would be all right too for a snack. So all the snacks are okay, but the best choices are probably going to be 1 or 3, and they're going to have little to no effect on your blood sugar level. Now let's talk about being physically active. On page 30 in your book, talks about why we should be physically active. It helps promote weight loss. It lowers blood sugar levels. It improves blood pressure and cholesterol levels. It increases strength, endurance, and energy. Creates a feeling of health and well-being. Reduces stress and improves mood and emotional health. It's a good place to start by thinking of activities that you've enjoyed in the past or things that you would like to try. You have 2 physical activity handouts. One of them is workout on the go. These things that can be done at home to get you started exercising. Things that can be done start on page 5 of this handout. This is a good place to start, especially for someone who hasn't done physical activity in the past. And it's also a way of staying active at home. We will talk about these and how well you're doing with these at session 4. The other handout shows you the various types of activities that can be done daily or 3 or 4 times per week. So the second handout is called Physical Activity. And at the bottom of it says Planning to Become Active, and gives you things that you can do to become active at the bottom of the sheet. On page 31 in your book, we'd like for you to fill in there some of the activities that you might choose to do. It might be doing activities in the Workout on the Go handout. It might be something like increasing activity over time, like walking 10 minutes 3 times each day. Might be taking your dog for a walk. It might be being active with someone else. You can also track your steps. There are different apps on exercise that you could download on your phone. One that most of the educators recommend is called FitOn. It's a free download on your phone, and it gives you opportunities to do free home classes in a different variety of areas. If you're tracking your steps with something like a Fitbit or something like that, 10,000 steps per day is a great goal. If you don't walk much at all right now, your goal may be 5,000 steps to start with, but gradually increasing until you get 10,000 steps per day as your goal. Let's talk about making changes. Are you ready to make a change? Next week we're going to start setting goals, so think about changes that you want to make. If you don't feel really ready to make changes yet, write down how making a change could improve your life. Some changes that can be made are on page 32 of your book. Page 32 gives you some examples of lifestyle changes that you might make at the bottom of the page. Also, next week, family members will also set goals. I want to share, as we close up this session, a family story to help you think about family goals. This example is what I did for love. So let's review these. My husband has type 2 diabetes and has been struggling to lower his A1C. A1C is the number that measures how well he's managing his blood sugars over time. It turned out that someone close to him was making it hard for him. Guess who that was? It was me. It took a long time for me to realize it. Because I'm not diabetic, I thought my husband's diabetes was his problem. As the family cook, I didn't change my meals. He can have a small portion, I thought. When he didn't choose a small portion, I'd usually serve him a side of sarcasm as I dished out my own big helping. About a year ago, my husband's A1C spiked to 11%. This was a wake-up call. 11 is a high number. I was terrified. I imagined the worst, including death. Both of us were frightened. For the first time, we talked seriously about what we eat. We read everything we could find on diabetes and how to manage it. I participated in nutrition sessions with nurses, and I saw a diabetes educator. We learned that there was much we didn't know. I learned, for instance, that the A1C test is just one tool among many. Blood sugar testing at home, food purchases, and meal planning, exercise, medical appointments, foot checks, eye tests, and education about the disease. Helping my husband change his diet meant putting thought into planning what I was cooking for dinner. I read labels more closely, especially the carbohydrates and sugar hiding in things like spaghetti sauce and foods that claim to be healthy. I found lots of great recipes on the internet for people managing diabetes. We also cut down on eating out. He weighs 40 pounds less now, his cholesterol is lower, and his A1C is lower. And my numbers have improved too. Dinner is now more relaxed. We enjoy each other's company instead of worrying about eating the wrong things or eating too much. So this is a good example of what this lady has done to help her husband. She began helping by changing and planning meals with him and eating together and attending some diabetes classes together, which you all are doing now. So you've already got started in helping your person with diabetes manage their diabetes better by getting education. Thank you for today. This next week, before you have your next session, whenever that may be, we want you to review the Eating Better For You pamphlet and circle some of the things you would like to try to do. Write down activities you would enjoy or would like to try on page 31 in your book. Page 32 in your book is Are You Ready to Make Changes? Next week, we want you to bring your goal setting workbook and your type 2 basics book. Thank you for attending this, and hopefully you'll get back to your Zoom class so you can have interaction with your educator and other participants, because that is a much better way to learn. There will be 8 more weeks of class, so please try to attend those on your Zoom. Thank you.